There is a reason your mind feels noisy. Not stressed, not tired, noisy. Like even when nothing is happening, something inside you is still moving. You sit in a quiet room, but your brain does not feel quiet. You try to work, but your mind keeps opening invisible doors. You try to rest, but rest does not feel restful. You try to think, but your thoughts keep breaking into smaller pieces. And the strange thing is, you may not even notice how often your mind gets interrupted anymore. Because interruption has become normal. Not the obvious kind. Not someone calling your name. Not a loud sound outside. Not a person walking into the room. The deeper interruption is internal. It is the sudden urge to check something. The small pull towards something easier. The quick escape from a difficult thought. The quiet discomfort that appears when nothing is happening. That is the real crisis. Your brain is not just distracted. It is becoming addicted to being interrupted. And once your brain gets used to interruption, silence starts to feel wrong. Focus starts to feel heavy. Boredom starts to feel painful. And normal life starts to feel too slow. Most people think their attention span became weaker. But that is only the surface. The deeper problem is that your brain has been trained to distrust stillness. It no longer believes that one moment is enough. It wants the next thing, the next shift, the next small change, the next tiny hit of movement. And this is why you can feel exhausted and restless at the same time. Your body wants rest, but your brain wants another signal. So you lie down, but you don't settle. You finish work, but you don't feel free. You close one screen, then open another. You are not chasing joy. You are chasing interruption. Because interruption gives the brain a feeling of escape. For a few seconds, you do not have to stay with the task. You do not have to stay with the discomfort. You do not have to stay with the silence. You do not have to stay with yourself. And that is why it becomes so powerful. It does not always feel good. It just feels easier than staying. This is the part most people miss. Distraction is not always about pleasure. Sometimes distraction is pain relief. A difficult task creates pressure. A quiet moment creates emptiness. A slow process creates impatience. A serious thought creates discomfort. And your brain learns, I can leave this feeling instantly. That is the trap. Not that you enjoy wasting time, but that your brain has learned to escape discomfort before you even understand what the discomfort is. So now every time life becomes slow, your mind searches for a way out. Not because you are weak, because your brain has been trained by repetition. And repetition is powerful. Every time you escape a boring moment, your brain learns that boredom is dangerous. Every time you avoid a difficult task, your brain learns that difficulty should be avoided. Every time you feel silence, your brain learns that silence is something to escape. Every time you choose quick stimulation, your brain learns that slow reality is not enough. And slowly, your inner world changes. You become less patient with ordinary things. You become less able to sit with one idea. You become less comfortable doing work that does not reward you immediately. You become less present with people. You become less interested in anything that takes time to unfold. And this creates a very strange kind of emptiness. Because the modern world gives you more stimulation than any generation before you. More content, more access, more options, more entertainment, more people to watch, more lives to compare, more things to react to. But somehow, many people feel less alive. That should tell you something. Maybe the brain does not become satisfied by having more to consume. Maybe the brain becomes satisfied by being able to stay. Stay with a thought. Stay with a task. Stay with a conversation. Stay with a feeling. Stay with a quiet moment long enough for it to become meaningful. But modern life keeps training the opposite. It trains you to leave. Leave the video when it slows down. Leave the task when it becomes hard. Leave the conversation when it stops entertaining you. Leave the silence when it gets uncomfortable. Leave your own thoughts the moment they become too real. And when you practice leaving all day, staying becomes difficult. That is why deep focus feels rare now. Focus is not just concentration. Focus is loyalty to one thing. For a few minutes, you choose one direction. One problem, one page. One conversation, one idea. But if your brain has been trained to jump, focus feels like a cage. It feels restrictive. It feels unnatural. It feels like something is missing. So your mind starts inventing exits. Maybe I should check something first. Maybe I need a break. Maybe I should start later. Maybe I'm not in the mood. Maybe this is not important. And before you know it, the task is still there, but your attention is gone. This is why people can spend an entire day doing small things and still feel like nothing meaningful happened. They were active, but they were not directed. They were busy, but they were not deep. They were awake, but they were not present. And that is the difference. A scattered mind can consume a lot, but it cannot build much. Building requires staying. Learning requires staying. Creating requires staying. Healing requires staying. Even confidence requires staying. Because confidence does not come from quick motivation. It comes from proving to yourself that you can remain with hard things. But if your brain escapes every time something becomes uncomfortable, you never get that proof. You start losing trust in yourself. You start believing you are lazy. You start believing you have no discipline. You start believing you are behind because something is wrong with you. But the truth is sharper than that. Your environment has been training your nervous system every day, quietly, repeatedly, aggressively, and you were not paying attention because the training did not feel like training. It felt like normal life. It felt like checking. It felt like relaxing. It felt like being informed. It felt like staying connected. But underneath all of that, your brain was learning a new rule: never stay uncomfortable for long. And once your brain believes that rule, everything meaningful becomes harder. Because meaningful things almost always begin with discomfort. The first page of a book feels slow. The first hour of work feels resistant. The first step of change feels awkward. The first few minutes of silence feel empty. The first stage of progress feels unrewarding. But that does not mean nothing is happening. It means depth has not started yet. And this is where most people quit. Not because the thing was impossible, but because they left before the reward arrived. They left before focus deepened. They left before boredom turned into clarity. They left before effort turned into momentum. They left before the mind had time to settle. And then they wonder why life feels stuck. This is the hidden cost of interruption. It does not just steal time. It steals the beginning of depth. It keeps you trapped at the surface of everything. A little bit of work. A little bit of entertainment. A little bit of learning. A little bit of emotion. A little bit of connection. But not enough of anything to feel changed by it. And after a while, that surface-level living starts to feel empty. You are doing things, but they are not landing. You are consuming things, but they are not staying. You are thinking things, but they are not forming. You are living moments, but they are not becoming memories. Because attention is what makes experience real. Without attention, life passes through you. It does not enter you. And that is why this matters. This is not just about productivity. This is about whether you can actually experience your own life. Because if your attention is constantly being pulled away, you are not fully where you are. You are always half somewhere else. Half working, half resting, half listening, half thinking, half living, and a half-lived life eventually starts to feel numb. Not because your life has no meaning, but because your attention is too fractured to feel it. So what do? Not a dramatic reset. Not a fake perfect routine. Not deleting everything and pretending you will become a different person tomorrow. That usually fails, because the brain does not change through one dramatic decision. It changes through repeated conditions. So start with one rule: do not feed every interruption. That is it. When the urge appears, do not obey it immediately. Pause. Not forever. Just for a few seconds. Let the urge exist without acting on it. That small pause is powerful. Because for the first time, your brain learns, I can feel the pull and not follow it. That is how control comes back. Not through force. Through delay. The second rule is simple: let boring moments stay boring. Do not rescue every empty second. When you are waiting, wait. When you are walking, walk. When you are eating, eat. When the room is quiet, let it be quiet. At first, your brain will resist. It will ask for noise. It will ask for movement. It will ask for something to grab. But if you stay, even briefly, your brain starts remembering something important. Nothing bad happens when life slows down. The third rule: protect the first minutes of your day. Because the first thing you give your mind often becomes the speed of the whole day. If you begin with chaos, your brain starts chasing chaos. If you begin with comparison, your brain starts measuring itself. If you begin with shallow input, your thoughts become shallow early. So before the world enters your head, give your brain a few minutes of ownership. No performance. No perfect routine. Just a few minutes where your attention belongs to you before it belongs to everyone else. That one habit can change more than people think. Because you are not just managing time. You are setting the mental temperature of the day. And finally, stop calling every quiet moment boring. Sometimes what you call boredom is your brain healing from too much noise. Sometimes what you call emptiness is just the absence of stimulation. Sometimes what you call laziness is actually mental exhaustion. Sometimes what you call lack of motivation is your reward system asking for something too fast. You need to understand what is happening clearly. Because shame makes the loop stronger. When you shame yourself, you feel worse. When you feel worse, you want escape. When you escape, the pattern repeats. Clarity breaks that loop. Not instantly, but honestly. Your brain was not built to be interrupted this often. It was not built to carry this much input. It was not built to switch contexts hundreds of times a day. It was not built to compare, react, consume, and perform from morning until night. But your brain can adapt. That is the good news. The same brain that learned restlessness can relearn calm. The same brain that learned escape can relearn patience. The same brain that learned interruption can relearn attention. But only if you stop treating your attention like it is cheap. It is not cheap. It is the most valuable thing you have. Because whatever controls your attention slowly controls your thoughts. Whatever controls your thoughts slowly controls your choices. And whatever controls your choices slowly controls your life. So the real question is not, why can't I focus? The real question is, what keeps teaching my brain to leave? Because once you see that, you stop fighting yourself. And you start fighting the pattern. You are trained. And that is uncomfortable. But it is also hopeful. Because what has been trained can be changed.